Welcome to Chester, ladies and gentlemen. All right, man. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. So, yes, I know I'm a little bit late today. I normally have videos posted way before now. It's been a kind of rough day. But I'm here now. So that's all that matters. I showed up. But yes, man, I went ahead and went back to this Superbet Rapid and Blitz. I have the game taken from round 24. Big 24. Wesley versus Viswanathan Anand, also known as Vishy. That's why you see his name, Vishy. It's also because it's a really long first name, so it kind of fits in there a little bit better this way. But, of course, for all my people that are coming from the Philippines, I will say mabuhay to you. Kamusta na aking makaibigan? Maraming salamat po sa nanonood ng aking mga video. Aking makaibigan. Mabuting pagbati. Ingat lagi. I got your kababayan Wesley here. And anybody who is coming from India, especially the southern part of India, I will say Vana come to you. And Nandri, thank you very much for stopping by and taking a look. And also, this is your kababayan as well, your countrymen, if you are from southern India too. But if you guys are ready to go, man, let's take a look, see what we got for this game. So we got the move D4, most explosive move in the game of chess. Knight to F6, we got C4, black loses. No, I'm playing. We got E6, knight to F3. We got D5. So we're going into, like, you know, what I normally kind of go into. It's my little variations. We got G3, pawn takes C4, bishop to G2. And we do have the Catalan opening. And we got the move C5. I know you guys out there, y'all were like, man, you know, C5 is going to come at some point. I know it. You know, you guys are learning, man. You're making me so proud. Thank you. Anyways, we got the move castles by white. We got knight to C6. And there is a tremendous amount of pressure in the center of the board. You absolutely do not want to allow this capture right here. So we got captures on C5. Queen takes D1, rook takes D1, and then the bishop takes C5. And then we do have the move knight B to D2. And this very much so invites the move, which is by far the best move, C3. You're figuring, okay, this pawn is going to be gone. So I would rather give it up and at least do a little bit of damage to white structure. So that is why C3 comes, and then you see pawn takes C3, and then you got castles by black. But if we back up, it was also possible after the bishop took on C5 to simply go back knight F to D2. It wasn't as strong, but that was kind of another way you could have tried to go after the pawn. But you will see that black desperately tries to hold on to this pawn if you do that. The knight would come to A5, then you'd have knight to C3, and then bishop to B4. And, you know, black is still trying to damage your structure. And, I mean, you all the way good. But, you know, as you guys are familiar with these types of situations with the Catalans, I mean, this bishop is super duper open. So it kind of affects black's ability to develop on their queen side just a little bit. But, like, going back to what we had in the game. Like I said, we did have castles by black. And then we do see knight to B3. Just attacking the bishop. Because, man, you never know. I played games where people just left their piece hanging, and I won it, and I won the game, and, you know, I got my GM title. No, I'm playing. I wish it was that simple. The bishop did come back to E7. We do see the move C4. We got bishop to D7. We got bishop to B2. So, I mean, you know, everybody's done what they need to do. And this isn't necessarily a weakness. It's not like ideally the best pawn you have in your life. But, you know, you definitely have some dynamic potential with it. And then you do see the move rook F to C8. And we have actually reached a point in the game. There is a way to win some material in this position. It's not the best move. But for tactical purposes, I do want you to pause the video and see if you can find a way to win some material. And yes, the guess the move is coming before the novelty. So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can find the move and the variation that wins some material. All right, so like I said, I mean, it just pretty much just creates an imbalanced situation. You know, there are many different moves that you can play here. It's fairly even for both sides. So it's not like one side is really super winning. But you do kind of have a chance here as white to create a very imbalanced situation and actually win a piece. Black is going to be fighting you tooth and nail. But, you know, you do have a little something going on. So the move that I'm looking for in this particular position is bishop takes F6. And like I said, you guys might be wondering, okay, you know, it's not the absolute best move, but for tactical purposes, I wanted to go ahead and show this particular move just because it kind of highlights you know, a little tactical sequence, and that is removing the defender. As you guys are aware, if you do take the knight on f6, this does pretty much hang the bishop on d7. So that is what we are aiming for. We are going to have to give up the exchange to get in that position, but we would see bishop taking f6, rook taking d7, bishop taking a1, knight taking a1. The rook would be sliding over to d8, just contesting this rook. And, you know, you really don't want to move this rook because rook is going to come to d1 and then bye-bye knight. And you are going to have your bishop pinned too. So we would probably be taking on d8 with check. The rook would take on d8 and then the knight would go back to b3. And then after we see the rook coming down here like this, you would be seeing the bishop coming down and covering as well. And like I said, I chose this point in the game just so that you could, like, you know, you could visualize, you know, a certain tactical combination that can be present in some of your games. So sometimes people hang their situation and they got a piece protected by a piece, and you can undefend that piece, and then you're a-okay. So yes, going back to what we actually had in the game, after we saw bishop to b2 and then rook f came to c8, we did see, and so I can mention this, c5 is probably the best move in this position right here. So like I said, the bishop taking f6 wasn't the absolute best position, but it did highlight, you know, a tactic that I would like, you know, I was liking to show you guys. But like I said, we did see rook f to c8. We got rook a to c1. We do see bishop back to e8. Rook f comes to d4. And then we see the move a5. It's like, bro, you're going to have to move your knight at some point, dog. Because I'm going to just hit it up with my pawn. So the knight does take c6. Bishop takes c6. And then we do see the novelty of the game now, which is bishop takes c6. Rook takes c6. We got knight to d4. And, you know, we got some munches, some munching trying to go on. But the rook, you know, Anand is saying, hey, man, I'm too gangster for that. So we do see rook c to c8. We got the knight up to d5. We got the move a4. We see bishop taking f6 now. And this is kind of like, you know, a similar type of thing, even though you're not winning a piece. You're trying to remove the defender of the d7 square so that your knight, your rook, can get beautifully placed on the 7th rank. You know, pig is on the 7th. So now we do see the rook going to d7. And I'm in like Flynn right here. That's the whole goal. So we do see the move b6. And then we got rook to b7. The pawn is mine. No, it's not. Okay, crap. Okay, so it's not. It's not mine. Okay, I'm going to get the a pawn. No, you're not. All right, fine. You know what? You going to let me do anything? And the answer is no. Bishop comes back to b7, threatening that pawn again. The rook a just goes back to b8. We see the rook going over to a7. We got the rook back to a8. And then we do see rook to b7. And this game is drawn by threefold repetition. I actually covered like most of the games from this tournament. So I randomly happened to be able to find one of the games that I did not cover. And that was this game. But like I said, I wanted to take you guys back to that point of the game. After we saw bishop coming to b2 and then rook f coming to c8, there are pretty much, I would say, like two main moves. But one of the main moves in this particular position is just the move c5. You're just pushing the pawn forward a little bit. You're trying to restrict this bishop just a little bit. You know, hopefully, you know, black will play like a b6 and you could trade and trade. And they got one pawn, you got one pawn, stuff like that. And that is actually, you know, one of the moves that is suggested just to kind of alleviate your problem and stuff like that. So this is a very nice position for white. But like I said, I chose bishop takes f6 because it was a legitimate move. And it did highlight, you know, that particular tactic that I was like trying to, you know, maybe get some people to kind of see if they have not come across that kind of a tactic before. It is a very common tactic in games. And I've used it many, many times myself in chess.com and in tournaments. But I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. Maraming salamat, Nandri, and I'll see you guys next time.